Well, it is that time again, one of my favorite times when a new set in Pocket drops and I get to talk to you about what is happening with the meta right now. There are a lot of amazing decks in Pocket that you're going to use to climb ranked or play tournaments if you want, and I'm going to break them all down for you right now. Hello everybody, Jake your resident content cowboy here. Yeehaw, let's get into it. Extradimensional Crisis has brought in a lot of really interesting cards. Obviously, the Ultra Beasts are completely new to the game, so we have the Ultra Beasts as well as cards that work with them, like Lusamine, and Ultra Beasts like Celesteela that directly works with these cards. We also have some other really new cards to the set, like Silvally, Shenotic, that are making some big splashes in tournaments. So there are a lot of exciting decks right now. I don't think we figured everything out, but we do have a good idea of what's playing super well. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about some of the decks that I've been playing in ranked, some of the decks that I think are doing really well, but I'm also going to talk specifically about one of the biggest tournaments that is happening over this weekend, the Ursi Day tournament that has almost 1,000 players playing a ton of new decks and what is working well. So let's start there with the most common decks that we're seeing in this tournament format. Our first deck I want to talk about is Silvally Rampardos. This deck is unbelievably strong, and it's only struggling a little bit now because it is getting countered a little. This is the most popular deck that you were seeing in tournaments. That might change once some of the counters become more prevalent, but let's look at this deck. Type Null Silvally. Type Null is already a strong basic card, 80 HP, very solid, able to do up to 40 damage with a single energy. Then you have Silvally, 110 HP, which is a really important break point, and a lot of decks are going to need to play around this. They can do 50 damage for 2 energy, or if you play a supporter during that turn, you are able to do 100. This deck is also paired with Cranidos and Rampardos, so once you get one of those online, Rampardos somehow a non-EX Pokemon able to crack enemies for 130 damage. The rest of the deck has things like the skull fossils needed, rare candies of course, Sabrina, Mars, Iono, Cyrus, Gladions, and the like. This deck is very powerful, really hard to fight unless you have an exact answer for it. Something that can most often KO Silvally in a single turn is what you're going to need, and something that can withstand a hit from Rampardos is ideal. We're seeing a few decks come up that counter this well, which I'll talk about later in this video, but this deck is fast, it is difficult to deal with, it doesn't give up any EX points, and it's just super solid. I do want to point out the Gladion card in a previous video, and thank you to the people in the comments who called this out. I said that Gladion could not be used if you have your Type Nulls and Silvallis out of the deck, and that's not exactly true. So Gladion cannot be used if all of your Silvallis or Type Nulls have been played or are in the discard pile. So if your opponent has seen them, you can't use the card. However, with the hidden knowledge of the card either being in your deck or being in your hand, you can still play the supporter Gladion, which is why you're running 2 in this deck. Again, super strong, you guarantee a Type Null start. It's easy to get the rest of your cards online. It's a really strong wall, and yeah, this is one of the better decks in the entire meta, and a lot of decks are shaping to actually try to counter this. The deck image you're looking at here is being run by a player named Elite4AJ. Shout out to them. The second most popular deck in this huge tournament is Buzzwole Pheramosa. Not super surprising, but it is cool that there are 2 different Buzzwole Pheramosas that are actually doing pretty well. There's one deck that is running only Pheramosa, there's another that's running Kartana. I personally like running both Pheramosa and Kartana, but I think either deck is extremely strong, using Buzzwole and 2 Celesteelas to be able to do insane amounts of damage and then cycle in your Pokemon. The Pheramosas are really nice because you're able to chip at your opponent's active as well as the bench, creating some really exciting Cyrus plays. I like Kartana a lot though, because if you run into a dark deck, it absolutely rips through them, and sometimes you need that extra damage to be able to take down something in the active spot. It's also really great to be able to give up 2 points to your opponents using some of these basic Pokemon before Buzz is ready to sweep through the entire enemy team. I have a few videos on my channel talking about Buzzwole. This is probably my favorite deck of the new set. Extremely consistent, really difficult to deal with, super powerful things that, you know, grass can work with, like Erica or Leaf Cape, to make this deck very strong. The 2 versions you are seeing here are Witchers, the one with the Kartana, and Demons, the player playing the one with just Pheramosas. I like both of these decks. We'll see if either of them can actually win this tournament. It'd be very cool. The next most popular deck in day one of this tournament, you can smell coming a mile away. It is Darkrai Giratina. We're looking at two versions of this, one with Nihilego and one without Nihilego. Amon is running the standard Darkrai Giratina, while we have Gaming Fourth running the Nihilego version. Both of these decks, very strong. They don't have the greatest win rate in the tournament, which we'll talk about a little later in this video, but it's still an incredibly powerful deck. You're obviously able to generate your own energy with Giratina. Powering Darkrai hurts your opponents. So many supporter cards, so many options. Very, very strong decks. And again, it does make you smell. It gives you a body odor, which is powerful for some players. But no, all joking aside, Darkrai Giratina is a very powerful combination. And again, I think the biggest benefit of this is it's easy to get these basic Pokemon. They have tons of HP. You're not digging through your deck for any other evolutions or rare candies or anything like that to make these cards work. At the same time, being able to generate your own energy is overpowered, which is why Giratina is so incredibly good. The next most popular deck is such an exciting one. I just put a video of this on the channel yesterday, I want to say, which is Solgaleo EX and Shenotic. I love this deck. It is so much fun. The version you're going to be seeing here is from a player named Red Japan, who is crushing it in the tournament as I am recording this right now. This has the Cosmog, Cosmom, Solgaleo line, Morlul, and Shenotic. The idea behind this deck is you get Shenotic out as early as you can, you comb through your deck to get both of your Solgaleos online. This gives you the opportunity to move between these two cards, do insane damage to your opponents, and hopefully with this speed you can take them down. It does have some trouble running into Oricorio that a lot of EX decks do. However, I have beaten an Oricorio deck using Shenotic to deal some damage, so there's some really cool opportunities with this deck. For a full breakdown, you can take a look at that video on my channel. But this is one of my, favorite decks from the new set. I'm so excited to see Shenotic work, and I hope we get to see more decks like this because of what people have sort of figured out with Shenotic. One of the amazing things, of course, about this deck, the low energy cost to do damage with Solgaleo is great. Especially considering that Silvally has 110 HP. This is just perfect, right? Solgaleo, one hit, takes that out, can withstand a hit from Rampardos while you're getting your other online. A huge counter to that deck. The next most popular deck is a fire deck using both Charizard and Incineroar. So this is Stoke Char, this is one line of Incineroar, two rare candies, Red, Mars, Lily. Given that you have two stage 2s, well, I guess 3 stage 2s that you could be getting into the game here, you are definitely looking to run Lily in this deck. We're looking at Shadow Rex version of this deck. Very powerful still, using essentially everything from the last set. I don't think there are any changes in this deck. However, you could see players move things like Repel into it. You have Charmanders, 1 Charmeleon, 2 Charizard EXs, 1 Litten, 1 Incineroar. When you're running into things like Oricorio, you're trying to take it down with Charmander, Charmeleon, and Litten if you have to. However, Incineroar's burn can also hit it, so it actually isn't the worst matchup for this deck. And then the quicker you can get this online, the better. As fast as you can get Char, as fast as you can get Incineroar, it is a race to your stage 2s with your rare candies, and if you can get them, you can crush your opponents. The next most popular day 1 deck is Giratina Magnezone, obviously using the power of both Giratina and Magnezone to generate their own energy, while at the same time adding Tapu Lele into this deck to deal some serious damage to your opponents when they stack energy. The version you're looking at here is from a player named Connor, S0 Konar, and this deck is very strong because it leverages 2 Pokemon that create their own energy while you can also generate energy for yourself. You have cards like Mars, Cyrus, Guzma, Pokemon Center, Lady, Sabrina, Pokeball, and Giant Cape. This is not my absolute favorite deck, and I actually don't think it's crushing it heading into day 2 of this tournament, but it's without question powerful when you are able to power your cards without any energy required from the game. This deck looks like it's playing well into things like Guz Lord, Decidui, but not playing super well into things like Buzzwole. Another popular deck in this tournament has been Charizard Teenator. However, it didn't have a stellar showing in day 1. We're taking a look at Wee OG's deck right here. So this is similar to the Incineroar deck, but instead of Incineroar, you have Turtonators and you have Kiawe. I actually love Turtonator, but I'm not sure how well it is playing into this meta. Fire is nice because you do run into a decent decent amount of grass with things like Buzzwole and Decidui, but at the same time, if you're not able to get these cards online, you could be in some trouble. Turt with Kiawe early, so unbelievably powerful, and the nice thing about this Charizard is once it gets into the active spot, it really just needs that one energy to start powering, so it's not super stressful if your Turtonators are discarding energy. However, again, this seems to not be crushing it right now in this meta. Next, we're going to take a look at Decidui with Decidui. So this is Decidui EX paired with that new non-EX Decidui, which is actually a really cool card, able to do 70 damage to any card on the board with its Snipe Shot. I think that's incredibly powerful. This deck also has Kartana and Pheramosa. This is a player named Flo that is running this deck right now. It's actually, I gotta say, it's not my favorite deck in the meta. I played a decent amount of it on ranked one of the days, and I just didn't absolutely love the combination, but maybe with more basics like Pheramosa and Kartana, it gets a little more value. I do think it could run into some decent matchups if you get your Decidueyes online quickly, but if you don't, it's gonna be tough. Another deck that's actually seeing a lot of play is Charizard Wiggly, interestingly enough. I don't think this deck is crushing it in the tournament, seems to have a pretty low win rate, but actually a decent amount of players brought it in. This is Karina Indra bringing this deck in, so it has the Jigglypuff and the Wigglytuff, the Charmander line into the Charizard. The idea behind this deck, of course, this card is just very creepy looking Wigglytuff, so you're able to get your opponents to hopefully concede right when they see it, and I think more importantly, this is able to heal your cards. But other than that, I gotta say, I personally don't love this Charizard deck. Next, Meowscarada Decidueye, and how the mighty have fallen here. We're taking a look at Musa Sensei's deck here. It's Sprigatito, Meowscarada, Rowlet, Dartrix, Decidueye. Still a solid deck, able to do some pretty good damage, but I think running into less EX cards or a more diverse set of them makes this deck a little less consistent. Meow is still incredibly powerful, able to comb through your deck, grab you those Decidueyes so that you can power up everything. You can get Meowscaradas online and your Decidueye online, able to do an insane amount of damage, able to heal with Lilies and Ericas, able to put Leaf Capes on. So this is just an incredibly powerful, consistent deck here that we're seeing a decent amount of in day one. A few other decks rounding out day one. We have Guz Lord Nagonado, we have Arceus Crobat, we have Giratina Arceus, and we have, of course, Oricorio Magnezone, which had a very small showing in this tournament. Garchomp Rampardos also playing decently well in this, as well as a Guz Lord Nagonado. Now, let's talk about what day two looks like. So all these decks play, and then the top decks move into day two. Heading into day two, we have Silvally Rampardos as the most represented deck in the tournament, followed by Buzzwole, Pheramosa, then Solgaleo Shenotic. So Solgaleo Shenotic actually moving up a spot right there. It was the fourth most popular deck. Now it is the third most popular deck when it's the players who are looking to win the entire tournament, meaning that it works pretty well into a lot of the meta. Silvally Rampardos still the most prevalent deck in day two, but it was the most prevalent deck in day one. Giratina Darkrai also performing well as Charizard EX and Incineroar, but I want to talk about an outlier deck that's been pretty cool. Garchomp Rampardos doing really well in day two. We're going to take a look at Letty's deck right here. This is, of course, Garchomp and Rampardos. This is about the standard version of this you would see. Nothing has really changed with it as we move into the new set. You've still got Gible, Gabite, Garchomp, Cranidos, Rampardos, as well as Professors, Lily, Cyrus, Iono, Skull Fossils, Rare Candies, one Pokeball, and a Giant Cape. Obviously, you only need one Pokeball. We're not friggin' Norse around here. Call back, but you only need one Pokeball because you only have one other basic in the deck. Cranidos and Rampardos are fossils, so neither of them are basics, and you can't pull a fossil with a Pokeball. I've always said that. This deck is actually doing well. We have two Garchomps doing pretty well moving forward in this tournament, which is really cool to still see this deck shining. Another deck I have to shout out is Guz Lord Nagonado. This is a deck that I've been trying to sort of hammer down on stream. We had some pretty good games with it, I want to say Friday. So this is Poipole into Nagonado, Guz Lord, Nihilego, and Celesteela. You've got a ton of basic Pokemon in this deck. You also have Lusamine, Cyrus, Mars, Pokeballs, Professors, and Poison Barbs. Ideally, considering you only need one energy for Nagonado, the rest of your energy can be focused on powering up Guz Lord, using Celesteela to move cards around and hopefully make sure that your opponents are hitting either your very tanky Guz Lord when you're looking to power everything up, or distributing your damage around, so by the time you come in and start fighting, you can do a lot to your opponents. And of course, if you can get your Nihiligos out on the bench, you are able to get extra poison damage from your Barb, from your Nagonado. It's a really cool deck, and I'm excited to see it going deeper and deeper into this tournament. The version you're looking at here is from a player named Wataru. Now for a little bit of an honorable mention here, we have Tapu Koko Zeraora. Only one of these decks made it through to day 2, and it wasn't a hugely popular deck. I think Lightning has a little bit of a struggle when it's not running Oricorio, right? This does have an Oricorio in the deck. So you've got Zeraora, Tapu Koko, Oricorio, and a Shaman. This is the version we are seeing from a player named Prout. It was the last version of this deck in the tournament, and sadly, it has been eliminated as the time of me recording this. I still think this is solid, very playable on ladder, but it has not crushed it in the tournament scene yet. These are a lot of the most exciting decks in the meta. Now the question is, what deck wins the entire thing? The winner of the biggest tournament, the Ursi Day tournament that we've been talking about, I mean, it feels like we've been talking about a ton, is Darkrai Giratina, played by just a player name with a period for their name. I think they don't want anyone to know exactly who they are. Darkrai Giratina wins the whole thing. It has 2 Darkrai's, 2 Giratinas, Professors, Pokemon Center Lady, Mars, Leaf, Cyrus, Sabrina, Guzma, Red, Pokeballs, 2 red cards, a giant cape, and a rocky helmet. Because there you go. There you go, everybody. Giratina wins the whole thing. And why wouldn't it? That's what Giratina needs to do, is win the entire tournament. The new meta, you know, we still got a little bit of the old meta there. Bye, everyone. We did it. Oh, and second place was Buzz. Second place was Buzz. All right.